Please welcome Senior Client Strategist at LiveVox. It's Brian Smith. Come on, Brian.
Walking for your love, walking for your love, I'm walking.
Oh, yeah, right. You're right up there. Yeah. Am I live? Am I live? Come in. We good? Sweet. All right. Thank you. I'm glad that we changed that music, Rich. I appreciate that. So, story behind the walk-up music is the guy sitting right back here. He's a good friend of mine, Greg Wheeler. That was Widespread Panic, Walking, and that played literally on a loop every day, coming out of the windows of the fraternity house, mostly coming out of Wheeler's room. And knowing that he might be here, I figured I had to play that for us. So yes, my name is Brian Smith. I'm a senior client strategist with LiveVox, and I work with B2B and B2C leaders and organizations and help them design contact center designs and activate strategies in self-funding initiatives. Today, what I want to do is really focus on this. So often, the contact center is viewed really as a cost center. And there's certain factors at play right now that are happening, certain trends and priorities that are creating an opportunity for this to become a profit center. Now, there we go. All right. So before I get started, Rich and I actually spent the last couple of days in Las Vegas, and I got in about 2 in the morning. It was on a bit of a run of giving money away. So in kind of keeping in that throwing motion, we have cards, QR codes, and some of the insights and commercial priorities that I'm going to share with you in this talk today. I invite you to come and meet me at the bar or afterwards and share with me your thoughts on how these might relate to what you see happening in your business. There's $50 in it, and believe me, I'd be thrilled to give you that $50 in the casino that we did 3 days ago. So, and I do recognize that I'm standing between all you guys and the bar that Greg just mentioned. So, I only have like 74 slides and 6 videos. So, we'll get through that. I've got 38 minutes and 49.8 seconds to do that. So, running a contact center today is harder than it has ever been before. We're coming out of COVID. That pandemic created an absolute mess across the board. Certainly from workforce transformation perspective, there isn't a contact center that I've encountered yet that hasn't experienced agent attrition, high amounts of turnover, and agents simply aren't coming back. So if you're running a contact center where you're a brand or a BPO, there are agent shortages. Another trend that we see happening is that customers want to, this isn't a new human condition, we want speed and convenience. We want what we want it right now. Now what's happening is there's an increased interest in that preferred channel of choice, digital and self-service. The first two here are kind of intertwined, right? Agent shortages are obviously going to naturally feed an interest in self-service because you don't want to wait and hold for a half an hour. But both of these two are contributing to this third trend, and this is really what I want to focus on today. The contact centers are poised for increased profitability if they think and act and engage strategically. So my focus is going to be on this third trend, and when I talk about the contact center, we recognize it's going to be inbound and outbound engagement. So we're going to set aside the outbound engagement, things like collections and telesales and telemarketing and recovery and that kind of thing, and focus predominantly on inbound care, right? Those contact centers that are responsible for delivering client delight, customer delight, that's their charge, okay? And the idea that companies have to provide their customers with delight has become so entrenched that it's rarely even examined by managers. But that's what I'm going to do today. God, I'm glad we have water. Yeah, if I knew I was going to be this thirsty today, I would have drank a lot more last night. But the idea that customers, that companies need to delight their customers, like I said, has been so entrenched that we don't examine it. The first question that I would ask is, how often does somebody patronize a brand or a firm because of the over-the-top service, right? You might think of a couple of examples. Maybe a frequent traveler that has a favorite hotel, and they've got just a particularly attentive staff, right? There might be a couple of examples, but the list is going to be short. So I asked the second question. How often do customers just cut loose companies that have provided terrible service? All the damn time, right? I mean, you probably cut a few loose today. And we want to exact revenge and pain on the airline that lost our bags, and the cable company whose technician has just left us hanging for hours, or the cell phone company that has us on hold, perpetually. And a consumer's impulse to, for revenge or to punish bad service, more so than reward, a positive experience, a delightful experience, plays out in full force and in dramatic fashion in the contact center. Both phone service, phone, voice, as well as self-service interactions are really the two largest channels that most companies will have in their customer service teams. And and the reality is that it's in these settings that research shows that loyalty actually has more to do with a company's ability to deliver on the basic, even plain vanilla promises that they make. More so than a dazzling service experience. Yet a lot of companies fail to understand this, and they're paid dearly in the form of wasted investment and lost customers. So the message today is, stop trying to delight your customers. Nobody left. That's good. So to examine the link between customer service and loyalty, the Contact Center Council of CEB conducted a survey of 75,000 consumers, people who had a recent interaction with a brand, a customer service rep, either on the channel of voice, just phone interaction, or some kind of self-service, web, chat, email, maybe an interactive voice response, something like that. And they asked these three questions. How important is customer service to loyalty? Which customer service activities increase loyalty and don't? And can companies increase loyalty without raising their customer service operating costs? So in addition to those 75,000 that they surveyed, they also had structured some interviews with 100 service leaders, customer service leaders in large organizations, large companies around the world. And two critical findings emerged that should affect every company's customer service strategy, period. The first is, customer delight does not build customer loyalty. Say it again, customer delight does not build customer loyalty. What does is reducing the customer's level of effort to solve their problems or answer their questions. Reducing the level of effort is what provided that customer loyalty. The second finding is active, intense focus can help improve, active intense focus on that first insight can help improve those CSAT scores, can lower your cost to serve, and reduce that customer churn. Now, conventional wisdom tells us that we're going to be more loyal to a brand that is, kind of over the top in service. Yet, the research shows that exceeding expectations during an interaction actually only makes a consumer or a customer marginally more loyal than just meeting their needs. And if you think about this, there isn't a contact center that doesn't have a wall plastered with emails and letters from customers who have just heaped praise on a rep that went above and beyond on their behalf. And in fact, 89 out of those 100 service leaders that were interviewed said that their strategy, the mainstay of their strategy, is based on exceeding expectations. But in spite of that Herculean effort and costly effort, 84% of those 75,000 that were surveyed said that their expectations had not been exceeded. So there's a reason why there's a focus on exceeding expectations. And it's really kind of rooted in how customer service organizations are measuring customer satisfaction, the CSAT surveys, right? That's the primary metric for gauging the customer experience. The logic here is customer satisfaction gives the indication of customer experience, and then the manager makes the assumption that, all right, well, the better the experience, the more likely it is that they're going to buy, the more loyal they're going to be. But the research shows that there's actually very little relationship between satisfaction and loyalty. So in these survey results, we had 20% of the satisfied consumers said that they were satisfied, but they still intended to leave the brand. And then you had this unsatisfied group over here, and 28% of them said that they were just happy and fine staying with the brand. It's a head shaker, right? So that kind of negates the satisfaction. And the picture gets even bleaker still. So customer service can't necessarily it does little to impact loyalty, but at least in a positive way. But it can, and often does, undermine to a great extent that loyalty. So when any of us are consumers, we are 4 times more likely to leave a customer interaction disloyal than we are loyal. So let's unpack. God, I hate that term, unpack. Everybody uses that. It's so abused. Let's take a look at loyalty. Another way to consider this is loyalty, if you think of 2 pies, right? One representing all the things that go into loyalty and all the things that go into disloyalty. So from a loyalty perspective, it's brand, it's quality of product, it's most of that makes up that loyalty pie. Very thin slice for service. The disloyalty is almost entirely based on service. So what this says is we buy stuff from companies because they've got this cool, sexy thing. It's a feature, it's a brand, there's great value. But we leave those companies almost entirely because we're disappointed in the customer service. So if we go back to understanding this, we have the opportunity to fundamentally change the emphasis in service channels. All right? If we go back to that key finding where loyalty in a customer service setting, loyalty is determined by reducing the level of effort. How much work do I have to put in to get my answers or my problem solved, right? So if we use that as the foundation for considering the customer service environment, and we change the emphasis to make it easy, as opposed to providing client delight or exceeding expectations, think about how you can measure those things. If I tell a rep, an agent, all right, get ready, 8 hours today, let's go out and I'm going to measure you on how much you're going to delight people. Are you kidding me? There's no way you can measure that in ones and zeros. All right, so just exceed expectations. All right, so exceeding expectations, by the way, what that does is it comes in the form of giveaways. It comes in the form of free services, discounts. Hey, here's a tip, by the way. When your subscription for SiriusXM comes up next, tell them you're going to leave. I guarantee that they will drop your rate. That's what we're talking about with exceeding expectations. Is that exceeding expectations? No, it's just giving stuff away, right? So we measure that against just keeping it simple. Make it easy, right? If I tell a rep to go out and make it easy for their customer, that's a foundation for action, right? We can do that. So what do I mean by making it easy? I mean, remove the obstacles, right? Get things out of the way. We've got hundreds of clients that have given us plenty of examples of why people get frustrated and irritated when it comes to customer service engagements. I've got 3 of them that we've categorized as really kind of the top 3 that we've put in the category of customer level of effort, right? I'll list them off for you. You're going to know all of them. You could probably finish my sentences for me. The first one is customers resent having to call in multiple times to resolve a single problem, right? What falls in that same category is calling in and then just getting transferred from one person to the next. And there's actually so I'm new at meditation. I've been doing it for 2 years. Not 2 years straight, but like in 10-minute increments. And I'm a rookie. I use the Calm app, right? It's this guided meditation. I listen to Tamara Levitt for about 10 or 11 minutes every morning or so. So like 2 months ago, there was one of the guided meditations was, I'm not joking you. It was about how to tap into your practice. These are her words. Tap into your practice to find the kindness to deal with customer service calls, right? She gave an example of, she called into her cell phone provider because there was an unfamiliar charge on her bill, and was greeted by a delightful agent who couldn't have been less helpful, then placed on hold, met by another person, again, couldn't provide the answer, but very polite, and this happened 2 or 3 times. And each time, there was this like growing pain in her belly that she was trying to kind of meditate down and kind of, talk the aggravation away, find the kindness in this. Anyway, I don't think that we can really count on everybody to be meditating to be able to deal with crappy customer service experiences, right? So that's example number 1. Also, number 2, people hate to repeat themselves, right? Call in, you get the automated service. What's your name? What's your account number? What's your phone number? However many other things they want to ask you. And then you get transferred to an agent who asks you the same damn thing, right? And then, I can't help you. Now I've got to send you to somebody else. And then you repeat the process all over again. Nobody in here is from AT&T Wireless, right? Okay. So that's number 2. And number 3 is they really resent, consumers really, really resent having to change channels. All we want to talk about is channel of choice. I mean, think about this. We should be able to interact with SMS when we want, however we want, on the phone, web chat. Go to the website. There's loads of answers on the website. Well, when you go to the website and you don't find the answers you're looking for, and you got to change channel, and maybe you go to chat with an agent, right? Who also can't help you because you're not talking to a person, you're talking to a bot who just sends you down this same loop. And you end up having to make a phone call in. It's deeply aggravating. So each one of these things is an example of a customer level of effort that can be reduced. You can minimize this, right? I mean, each one of those things are essentially tasks in sequential order of when you started to when you want to get your problem solved. And companies can minimize that, and they can measure it. They're going to measure it using a new metric, not CSAT, not NPS, but customer effort score. Customer effort score is a far greater indicator of predicting future behavior, like future purchases, and therefore profitability for the contact center. And I'm going to highlight a few examples of what I mean by that. I think I've got 5 that I'll call out and just kind of tell you what they did and how they did it. Some of the tactics that they used, quite honestly, some of the tactics that everybody should use. But it'll give you a little bit more of an understanding of what we're talking about. So, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, this is a really cool one. So, obviously you call in, you book trips, you've got loads of questions, and there's changes that you got to make, and you can imagine the breadth of the type of calls that this contact center receives. So the agents have 300, or had, 300 different disposition codes, how they would classify those calls. And what they found was there was not a lot of continuity between what the agent was saying was happening on the call and what they were seeing playing out in the business. So what we did is help them mine all those conversations from start to finish, understand what was the call driver, why was that person calling in, what was the intent, listen for keywords and phrases and trends. And a lot of times what they found was a single person might be calling in but have 4 or 5 different intents on that call, meaning they were calling in to check a status, then they had some other future questions that they needed answered, a number of things that they had to get through. What they found was in listening to this, so many of those callers' intents were actually self-service opportunities. So they were able to peel off and create these self-service channels so that when they called in, all you had to do was say what you were looking for. It would direct you to a natural language processing self-service channel. Dramatic results. They decreased their repeat callers tremendously and actually increased bookings with greater frequency over the same measured period of time, year over year and month over month. American First Finance, they're a fintech out of Dallas. One of the things that they had, they struggled with what I call, it's a term that I'm stealing from a friend of mine that we were working together on a project, and he came up with, and you guys can use this. You have to give me credit for the first 3 times that you use it, but you can have it after that. Frictional loss. Frictional loss is the byproduct of a misalignment of either agendas, or scopes of work, product or processes, something like that. For example, AFF had an email channel, they had SMS, they had an ACD, and when they're trying to serve their customers, they were trying to understand what the whole picture, and it was very disjointed. They had a lot of these different threads and silos to deal with. Well, what they found was they had an ability to provide more personalized experience by threading that all together and seeing a choreography of, oh, this person called in here, and it was followed up with a text, and here's a follow-up with the email, and we had an experience on a web chat. By reducing that frictional loss, it allowed them to provide a more personalized experience. Customer satisfaction went way up, and their repeat calls dropped significantly. Office Gurus, they're a BPO. They handle calls for home improvement chain. A lot of people wear orange aprons there. And one of the things that they found was their average handle times were higher than they wanted, right? It was 9 minutes and 7 seconds. And when they went back and mined through all of those conversations, they were listening, they heard the reps would say, they'd open up the call by saying, how can I help you today? Well, there's a lot of good opportunities and times where you need to ask open-ended questions, but that isn't one of them. What it was doing, it was introducing this long, lengthy dissertation on what they were calling for and what they were trying to resolve. So by listening to that, they coached the agents to change their behavior. In fact, they asked for the product ID in the IVR up front, which then fed into a knowledge base that was really kind of curated for that agent, so they didn't have to spend a lot of time looking around. And in doing so, that reduced that average handle time from 9 minutes and 7 seconds to 7 minutes and 50 seconds, 21% in the first 4 weeks, and it's dropped from there. 2 more examples that you don't have up here. There's a lighting retailer who wanted to focus on listening for all these words that have negative connotations: don't, can't, won't. And they wanted to be able to understand what the report on, what the implications were from using those words. And they wanted to change the language. They shifted it from something that sounded more like, we don't have that in stock, to, hey, good news, we've got that for you in 2 weeks. And just by making that simple language shift, it reduced that level of effort and returned repeat phone calls by 40%. The last one that I'll share with you is a mortgage company that was also trying to deliver more personalized service. And what they intended to do is leverage, you guys have probably seen this, but you know those personality exams where you're a thinker or a feeler or an entertainer or a driver, something like that, right? Well, they had 4 categories. And what they wanted to do is apply that to the contact center. So they listened for, or they coached their agents in listening for certain cues, the way that this person would engage, right? And they'd say, ooh, this is somebody who's a controller, or this is an entertainer. And they would be able to style flex with each one of those personalities. And in doing so, it improved customer satisfaction dramatically, reduced those repeat phone calls by 40%. So super impactful, and it's using a combination of a lot of different technologies. It's using AI, but AI not in an IVR, okay? The important part, you can do AI in the IVR, you can. You are making your life more difficult by having it in IVR because you're not able to capture the voice recordings. If you can't capture the voice recordings, you can't use speech analytics on them, right? So now you're missing a gap of data. What you want is leveraging AI from the moment that goes off hook until it's dispositioned. Now you can track every last single second of that customer interaction, and you can analyze that text. So by placing AI in the call center, in the ACD, having a human heartbeat sit next to a digital heartbeat, that allows you to get really kind of the full breadth of the experience. So here we're leveraging speech analytics, data analytics, AI, certainly call center, inbound, outbound. Oh. Is this an extra slide? All right. So the immediate mission here is clear. Corporate leaders need to focus their efforts and their organizational, their service organization on mitigating disloyalty. And they do that by minimizing customer effort. Service managers who are probably worried about having to re-engineer a call center, and the same kind of call center or department that was probably principally built and with a foundation on delivering customer delight, they should know this, that there is an undeniable fundamental shift in the way that we engage and what we value in terms of channel preferences as we pursue service. And although most companies believe that phone-based service is the overwhelming preference of most of us, the reality is the data shows that it really isn't. That's not the case. At best case scenario, it's people are indifferent, right? You'll text, you'll take a phone call, you do email, but we're reaching an important tipping point, and this may be a preview of the beginning of the end of phone as the preferred primary channel of choice when you're engaging in customer interactions. So that's the message for those concerned about re-engineering their call center. The service managers that are more enterprising, this is a huge opportunity to rebuild an organization that is based around self-service. And in the process, you're going to be able to put reducing customer effort firmly at its core, where it belongs. Managing all those three elements, you can consider where that might relate to your organization. If you have questions about how we want to get there, LiveVox is happy to engage in discovery and alignment. That's all I had today. I thank you for the time and appreciate you listening.